great thing about Old World versus New World, not in terms of quality or even in style, it's just in terms of concept. You might say, oh, I love New World this or Old World that. It doesn't always work as a catch-all. And there's a few reasons for that. I mean, essentially, it depends on what particular climate or set of soils or grape varieties that any one winery is using to grow, and how they are then treating those grapes in the winery that will ultimately influence the outcome of the wine. So it's a combination of lots of different things. And just to say that it's because it's from, I don't know, Barossa versus Saint-Joseph in the Northern Rhone, doesn't necessarily mean that it's bound to be different, or it's got to be like that, or it's got to be like this. You can find some really rich, opulent things from the Northern Rhone. You can find some very restrained, pure and light things from not that many from South Australia. But that's not quite the word. There's just a nice thing about history, right? And especially when talking about a wine like this, because it's from South Africa. It's from a particular winery in South Africa called Rustenberg. Rustenberg is based in Stellenbosch, and it's based in a farm building that was established with the grape growing practice in 1682. Like, it's a hugely long time ago. It was so grapes landed in South Africa in Stellenbosch area and its environs because of the Dutch East India Company, right? So they were taking spices and silk and china and porcelain and all that sort of stuff around the world back to Holland, and they stopped off at the Cape of Good Hope, and they started, we reckon, planting grapes and growing things wine-like from their ground. Meantime, back in Europe, they had only just begun draining the Medoc, which is where all the amazing Pauillac, Saint-Joseph, Saint-Julien, Saint-Estèphe and Margaux wine chateau are now, right? So they weren't even getting going, and they were already in this New World place. So actually, South Africa is in some ways older than parts of Europe. Look, doesn't really matter. It's about what you do in the winery with the grapes that you have. I think that is important. Whether you're new or old doesn't matter to me. It's just got to be good. This is very good. And what I will say about it is that it is made in a very traditional method. It is all hand-picked, whole bunch pressed. It all goes into oak barrels, so it's all fermented in very, very gently, very little temperature controlling, wild yeasts, 100% malolactic fermentation, so it's got that creamier feel rather than a crisp feel. It is aged for 8 months in 100% oak barrels. 25% of those are new, so that's going to be quite an intense amount of oak. So it's got 10 months of lees aging on its fine lees. So it's really got a beautiful body, a lot of perfume flavours as well, texture, gorgeous. And all of those point to practices that have been used in Burgundy for 1,000 years. So that's really interesting, because actually it's a very traditional set of winemaking practices for what we would consider to be the New World. Take a winery around the corner in Stellenbosch, and they might not use all those things. And of course, so it just serves us well to read up on the winery and say, well, I like that winery because it's really good. Alcohol-wise, it's a little riper than perhaps some of the Burgundians we're used to seeing, but not that much. It's 13.5%, and it's absolutely delicious. It really is lovely. And maybe the flavour is where you might say, well, that's not a French wine. And that, I suppose, is possibly it. So yes, we get crunchy apples, but they're slightly riper apples. There's a bit of apricot, there's a bit of marzipan. I'd even go, I don't know. It's more complex. There's toasty oak, but it's well integrated, so it doesn't feel like it's overpowering. But instead of the say lemony citrus notes that you might get in a white wine from Europe, there are definitely riper. So it's more orangey even than lime or lemon. And look, it's well made wine, so it's good. It passes the test. Secondly, because it's so well made and it's from a different place, it's definitely worth a look. And I think it's absolutely delicious. And I hope you do too.